Brian's doing Brian things,
This
boys.
is unbelievable, dude. I don't get it, man. Right off the bat, we were totally fine in the pregame, and then you were like, "Here we go," and boom, disaster. Sharpen the
That's
point. Week 11 recap, week 12 preview. I guess second weekend here in November. Got our first college football playoff ranking this past week. Overall, I thought this weekend was fine.
yeah,
It was fine. Like, and I don't think there's anything wild or super crazy. Big game of the weekend obviously was the Texas Tech BYU game, but I think that kind of went exactly as we expected. Texas Tech handles business there. I think the biggest thing was probably Barron didn't look amazing, but it didn't really matter. Texas Tech's just very good.
So the funniest comp I've heard this weekend was that Texas Tech team looks a lot like an Les Miles LSU team.
Did they run a toss dive?
Well, no, they just play really good defense. They turn it over and then they kick a field goal. Like they don't capitalize on that.
Yeah. I don't know. The thing is, I think people in their minds think of Texas Tech as the air
Run and
raid and
shoot.
everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this team is just so good in the trenches. Like,
Mhm.
um, that defensive line just gets after you. They are just a very, very good, well-rounded football team. I think they easily make my handful of teams to win that can and I think I'm not gonna say will. You can't say a handful of teams will. Only one will. But I think at the handful of teams I think can win the national title.
Yeah, we've been on that train for a few weeks. I would say for me, the thing that stood out the most, there was two things that stood out, and that was the game of the week coming into it, but it went exactly as we expected, like you said.
Correct. The game of the week ended up being, as I assume that's gonna be where you were going there with your
Well,
other
no,
take.
no, actually, no. That does stand out because it's probably the greatest catch of all time. But we'll get to that.
Unbelievable.
The two things that stood, he levitated like Michael Jordan up from the free
If
throw
he
line.
moved that foot out of the way on purpose, I just
I mean, that was maybe the
unbelievable.
most impressive thing I've ever seen. But the two things that stood out for me, number one, the ACC had the worst day of all time that they could possibly have because Virginia went down. Miami looked terrible, even though they won the game. They didn't look good, in my opinion, mainly because they didn't want to run the football, and it really bothered me. But Duke lost to UConn, and they were an ACC title contender technically at this point. And Virginia lost to Wake Forest, which we saw coming to an extent because Virginia wasn't going to be able to keep getting away with it, and they didn't. So
Yeah.
they lost a lot this weekend, and I think it's now a one bid league, and that destroyed them. Now, the other thing that really stood out for me was the G5 playoff race. San Diego State laid an absolute egg, like in that late night
Just
slate because Hawaii
destroyed.
boat raced them.
I mean,
I mean,
crushed him.
which was shocking because based on my preview and everything that I saw, that San Diego State defense is absolutely filthy on every level. And Owen Chambliss played great, but nobody else showed up. Jackson Harris absolutely dominated that game in the first half, and it was over. I mean, I went to bed before it was over, and that's not normal for a Hawaii game for me. So San Diego State's now dead. And I think the whole Mountain West is dead as a whole now in this playoff picture. So they're just done. And then Memphis got the boot from Tulane, which I expected. But now Tulane's not really like I don't know that they can pass my boys, but I know North Texas is going to run the table. If South Florida makes it, does South Florida get in over JMU? Because Louisville losing to Cal even killed our resume, but also killed the ACC even more.
I mean, it's hard to say because to me, I think the team. It's hard to argue that the best group of 5 team isn't coming out of the American.
Oh,
Um, I,
100%.
Out of USF, Tulane, or North Texas, who it's going to be, I don't know. But I certainly believe the 3 of them. I mean, we talked about Memphis and Braden Lewis and the is he going to play, the injury, the whole 9 yards there. I think they probably also belong in that conversation. Obviously, the resume doesn't hold up at this point with the extra loss and everything, but um, I think between the four of them, that they're the best four teams in the G5. JMU being the obvious fifth in contention for this, and if not resume, but team, best team. I mean, because we could sit here and say like, Navy's 5-1 and technically in first place in the American, but I think as a team, they're not as good as those five teams are. I don't know. I mean, honestly, looking at the G5, like I think South Florida's really, really good. Like
Mhm.
legitimately could win a playoff game good. Tulane, maybe. I don't know. I think they have the more likelihood of just dropping an egg. Um, North Texas, same. I mean, maybe, but I really think USF could win a game. For me, they would be the team that I would be arguing for to have that spot. I think if they played Miami this week versus when they played them 2 months ago, they probably have a shot at it. Um, I don't know. For me, it's South Florida. I would probably have JMU right in that maybe 2 or 3 spot with Tulane. I saw everyone's projections for the playoff having Tulane as a team in that spot, but I don't know. I think South Florida is legitimately just a better team. Now, granted, I was wearing a USF hat about an hour ago, but I literally think they're just that good.
Well, I think we said coming into the year, as long as Byron Brown's healthy, I felt like they were the best G5 team. It
Yeah,
just was a matter of could he stay healthy this season. Now, the scary part is now they get Navy this week. So we get a Navy South Florida matchup this week, which will clear up that picture because Navy is probably out. Is even if they won out, they're probably out. If Tulane somehow wins the conference, can they survive that UTSA loss? Maybe because their
well,
schedule
they
is
have two
not as good.
blowout losses, right? I mean, one was to Ole Miss, but it was like 35 or 40 point
It's
loss.
40, yeah, 45-10, I think is what it was.
Yeah,
Does Retzlaff being there convince the committee that they're most likely to win a game because he played at BYU before? I think North Texas is 100% a shoe in for me to make that title game. But let's just say for fun's sake, Navy win or well, if Navy wins out, they have to beat South Florida. So it's probably
uh,
unlikely they get there. But let's just say because who does East Carolina still have on their schedule? Because they're 4-1 still too. And I
they
think
have
they have
Memphis this
Memphis
week.
this week.
Yeah,
So if they get past Memphis, which they're favored, hint, hint, that's coming up later. Memphis is as a dog to East Carolina this week. If East Carolina runs the table, we could easily get Memphis or to North Texas, East Carolina in that title game. So if we get a bad AAC champion, which is not out of the realm of possibility, we could legitimately see them get shut out just off of that. Because can you really put in South Florida? Like, what if South Florida doesn't win the tiebreakers and doesn't get in somehow, and East Carolina and North Texas win tiebreakers over South Florida? Well, no, North Texas doesn't have the tiebreaker over South Florida
yeah, they beat them
because
by
they
like
lost
30.
one. Yeah, so I mean that would be difficult. Yeah, I mean it is the fun race. Like that was always going to be the race to get the G5 spot was that one. So I think that the playoff picture is getting interesting. Notre Dame is basically a lock at this point. You kind of have to lock them in with a G5 team. You lock in one ACC team, and then the Big 12 is still a crapshoot to me. I think Utah can get in, uh, but I
Can,
don't
yes.
know.
The hard
Yeah, I
thing's
mean,
going to
but
be
they have to win it.
Yeah, and the teams in front of them, do they get it? If they don't make their conference title game, do they get in with that? Do they get jumped by somebody? Um, it feels like they're going to be they're going to be in the bubble conversation. I'm a hard time believing they're going to like hold to spot 10, let's say, if they don't make the Big 12 title game. I think that I could see them sliding to 13 or something.
Yeah, which would give them a chance. It's just a question of what happens with the SEC teams and how many can get in because the Big Ten is eating its own too. Because Iowa and Washington losing the last 2 weeks kind of negated them out of the picture. USC still has a tough schedule coming up. I believe they still have Oregon and Iowa.
UCLA.
They have Oregon and Iowa.
Yeah,
They have Iowa this week, and Oregon still left on the schedule. So USC's still in a tumultuous spot, to say the least.
right.
We could really see some shakeup here, where the Big Ten gets the top two seeds. Maybe Michigan still is in it with the fight. Oregon's probably in. So you're looking at like the top two seeds being the Big Ten, and then after that, it could be a while before you get another Big Ten team. It's getting pretty ugly though at the top end, and it could get uglier on the back
Michigan
end.
does. Michigan does still have a loss to Ohio State coming up.
Yeah, probably. We're gonna have to say probably. So look, we got to talk about it. Omar Cooper, he levitated. He levitated because I thought originally when I looked at it that the first foot was going to go down. And I was
Right.
like, oh no, he never got it down. And then the second foot comes out of nowhere. And the man put on a David Blaine esque show of staying in the air and all of a sudden tapping that foot down in bounds, which I had boots on the ground texting me about this in that end zone. And that was wild. I don't know how he got in. I don't know how Penn State managed to even score 24 points. Mendoza needs to wear tighter pants. He's got too much sag in the back end. I noticed that when he was walking away from his interview. He did not look. Gus Johnson loves to throw phrases out, and I guarantee you, he said in that game, Mendoza just won the Heisman. And I'm fairly certain that when he gets to the Michigan Ohio State game, Julian Saint's going to throw a touchdown to Jeremiah Smith, and he's going to say one of those two just won the Heisman at some point, because Gus is giving out Heisman's like Oprah gives out anything on her show. Like, it's insane. Charlie Becker came out of nowhere. I'll say that.
I thought Gus overdid it on the Cooper touchdown. He was just streaking like you'd have thought he was getting killed in the booth. Um, I thought the biggest thing for that drive for me was the performance from Mendoza. The sack on the first play is enough to kill like any college football team in that spot. It's like the automatic drive killer. You just take a sack at a point and everyone's scrambled. And he just like turned out throw after throw that was just where only his guy could catch it. I mean, look, Cooper's catch was unbelievable. The tight
Noah
end catch on the
Kowski.
sideline was unbelievable. There were great individual plays there, but like so many times in that spot, the quarterback throws a ball that does not have a chance to be caught or is easily picked. And he was giving his guys chance after chance on free rushers in his face. It was just I do think that was Mendoza's Heisman moment. I think at this point it probably belongs to him until someone comes and takes it. Um, Granted, we still got a month to go, but before I would have told you last week that it was just a wide open competition, and now I feel like it's Mendoza and others trying to get in the conversation. He's certainly going to be in New York at this point.
Yeah, I still feel like from a just simple Heisman standpoint, I don't know that anybody has the numbers. Like
No, I don't think
saying
it's going to
he's
be numbers.
winning, Saying's winning, but he doesn't have the numbers. Mendoza's winning, but I mean that game he played this weekend was terrible
Hmm.
overall, other than the last drive.
But no one tuned in until the
Simpson
last drive. I mean, let's be honest.
Simpson kind of hasn't been very good from a numbers standpoint.
No,
Reed probably has the best numbers of the bunch, maybe. I mean, Sayin does have some numbers games, but like I don't know that Pavia is a bad shout at 20-1 right now.
I'm over Pavia. That's my take. I'm over him.
Ah, man, he keeps giving me the blade. Every week, this dude comes out of nowhere and just scores a ton of points, and he's killing me. I still don't know that Jeremiah Love really needed a 100-yard game this weekend and didn't quite get there. I think he finished at 94. I still wouldn't discount Haynes King if he has because see, that Georgia game's going to loom large. If
Yeah.
Haynes King has the performance he had last year against Georgia, it could, and they win. I mean, I think that's your Heisman. He's still in it with a shot, very much so.
Well, let's on the games this week. There's two other games I want to talk about, and we could talk about 15 of them, I'm sure. But in terms of two, I want to specifically hit on. Um, Iowa had everything that they could have asked for in that Oregon game.
Mhm.
Kind of a let it slip through their fingers kind of game. I mean, they had chances and just kind of never were able to land a knockout kind of punch. Even when it felt like they had it, I was like, okay, well, I know Oregon's going to come back, and they did. Dante Moore had the huge scramble, what I thought was going to ice the game, and then like I guess he just ain't got gas like that and just kind of drifted out of bounds. And I was like, okay, so this ends at best at a field goal.
It looked like he pulled a hammy. Like he came up lame in that one. That's kind of what I got out of it. But I mean, what more could you ask for? They have no Evan Stewart. They haven't had him all year.
Corey
They
Moore.
have DeCorian Moore, which shout out me. I ended up breaking that news. I was the
Yeah,
first
you
one to report it.
broke that
Yeah,
one to me.
I was the first one to report that on the live show in the morning. I was in on that one. I was also in on the Kenyon Sadiq. I broke that to you too, that Kenyon Sadiq wasn't going to play. So he was out. And then Gary Bryant, who was the de facto one, gets hurt in like the second possession of the game. So they were down their top four, at least four pass catchers in this one. And it was pouring rain. It was the perfect Iowa game script. And Iowa has played teams very tough. You look at the Indiana game, they played them tough. But Oregon keeps surviving, and that's all they need to do is survive in advance. They're not going to necessarily get to the Big Ten title game. They're not going to because Indiana's not losing now. They have nobody left on the schedule. So at least Oregon's going to just kind of float to the end, and they just don't need – they'd have to lose two probably to be out of this thing at this point.
Yeah.
And I don't foresee that happening, even with the injuries. DeCorian Moore, at minimum, I think, is out another week or two. But rumor has it he might be out for a lot longer, in my opinion. So, yeah, I think Iowa had everything there. Gronowski played well. They just got to find ways to get Weech in the ball.
The one other game I want to touch on with you, and I think it actually will head towards Darren's question here. Texas A&M Fetty Wops, Missouri 1738. I would like to go on the record and say that I am fully. I think I said it maybe last week or the week before, but A&M's in the playoff. There's no other way around it. They're 9-0. The schedule left is South Carolina, Samford, and then they're at Texas to close the year. Even if they lose that, and they still make the SEC championship game, and they lose that, I still think they're in at 2 losses there as a team that made the SEC championship game. If I take Notre Dame off the table, and I pose the question to you, who is the second best team Texas A&M has beaten this season? Your choices are UTSA, Utah State, Auburn, who has fired their coach, Mississippi State, who we know how Mississippi State is one of the worst teams in the SEC, Florida, who has fired their coach, Arkansas, who has fired their coach, Missouri, or LSU, who has fired their coach, and Missouri, who is playing obviously without their starting quarterback, whose coach appears to be on his way out of town, potentially to Penn State, potentially to LSU, potentially to Florida, potentially somewhere, as Darren points out, it's Penn State, as a rumor there. But who is the best team that A&M has played outside of Notre Dame?
I would argue Auburn is the most talented team they have played outside of Notre Dame.
Hugh Freeze coached that team that day. So,
that was the problem. That's
correct,
the problem there is the coaching staff. But from a talent perspective, and by the way, I finally got out on and decided I don't want to play Cam Coleman anymore. I'm tired of pain. And then he gave me the blade.
We had friends over on Saturday, and I had that game on one of the TVs, and we were just sitting around just chit chatting, and I just started going, "Holy shit, Cam Coleman! Oh my god!" And I'm ranting about how amazing the touchdown catch was, and then he catches the 2-point, and I'm like, "Holy, this guy again!" And they're like, "Is that not a replay?" I'm like, "No, it's just the next play."
Yeah, it bothered me so much because
he's been making more than a lot of NFL receivers this upcoming year. Someone's going to go buy him with a ton of money.
I don't care where he goes, I'm buying in. I mean, that kid, I said it before the season. I still believe it. He's closer to Jeremiah Smith than he is any other receiver in the country as far as the talent level goes. There is no other receiver in the country that is on that level. Like, if you want to say that Jeremiah Smith won with a bullet, I wouldn't disagree. But I'd argue that Cam Coleman is equally as distant from everybody else, maybe just not as good. And he's number 2. Like, Cam Coleman is insanely good from a talent standpoint, and anybody should just pony up multiple millions right there. I mean, he is so good.
Well, words floating around from the weekend was that Miami has landed on him and Sellers as the two that they're chasing this offseason.
I guess if Sellers is staying in school, then yeah, I
That
could
was
see that.
I mean, I don't know if you listen to McShay's show at all, but he was talking about that the draft scouts are expecting a lot of the quarterbacks who have an additional year to look to stay, guys like Sellers, Arch, obviously, and a
Well, we
bunch
already
of the
knew
guys
that.
who were pre-expected to be at the top of the draft class, who obviously no longer are. Speaking
Yeah.
of, Garrett Nussmeier benched this weekend. Dog,
Yeah.
just
So
dog is
just
terrible.
wrapping up Mizzou. Zollers is not ready. There's a reason why he's there. Ahmad Hardy, if wherever Drink goes, I would imagine they pay for Hardy to go with him.
I would think
Because
so. You've
and
had your offensive coordinator QB movement. You'd take Hardy with your head coach there, I think.
here's the $1 million question: with Drinkwitz gone, does Mizzou become the worst, like one of the worst jobs, if not the worst job in the SEC going forward?
I kind of already thought it was. Um,
I mean, as far as like actual record going forward, because they right
oh,
now are very good. Like, if they were fully healthy right now, that's a game against A&M. Point blank, it was 14-0 at halftime. And the reason this game blew out is that defense finally just couldn't hold off anymore. They did everything they could and just gave up because they knew the offense was never going to score.
yeah. I guess to answer Darren's question on how you should feel about Drink, I mean, to me, Missouri is one of the worst programs in the SEC. To me, they have no real strategic uh, advantage, just location, program history, kind of anything compared to the rest of the conference. You know, they're the most, I guess you could argue, Midwest of the teams. Obviously, a former Big 12 school there, but I don't think they can tap into the Midwest things like recruiting in Wisconsin and Iowa and those kind of places to get those beef fed big boys and all that kind of stuff. He took that team to the Cotton Bowl. Just was that maybe 3 or 4 years ago? I mean, him and Baker together.
It would have been 3. Yeah, with it was Brady Cook's junior year with Luther Burden as a sophomore.
Yeah. So I mean, I think Drink certainly can be a great coach. I mean, I think he has that ability. We've seen great up and coming young coaches not work in places before, but for a coach who's coached in the SEC and done well, recruited well to a place that really has no reason to recruit well, if he does end up at Penn State or any of these other open jobs, I don't have a problem with it. The thing is, any hire is going to come with amount of risk unless it's, I mean, Lane Kiffin is pretty much the only answer that I think I would say, yeah, that's pretty much a slam dunk to work, just because Lane can recruit and strategize offense in a way that I think gives you a pretty safe floor if he's at one of these big programs. I think anyone else is a we'll see if it works at that scale with that pressure, with that going around them.
I want to say that Summerall is safe. I just really feel like he is.
I think he can
It's
be, but I mean, in terms, I mean, you're still taking a coach that's jumping from G5 to Power 5. There's still risk there.
Yeah, and I guess it's similar to what I mean. It's not similar to DeBoer from the simple fact that DeBoer did it at Washington before, even though he did it in the Pac-12. But the Pac-12 was kind of a dumpster fire at that point. Now, you mentioned Nussmeier getting benched, and I was extremely ecstatic to see that happen. I am as big of a Van Buren fan as there is. My dad asked me to describe him. I said,
8th president of the United States.
he's mobile enough. That's fair. Yeah, I said he's mobile enough to get you yards on the ground, but he's not a runner. And he said, so he's like Joe Burrow. And I said, yes, just not necessarily with the passing acumen. Sure. I think that's a very fair tools description. And he played extremely well. I thought he played well in that situation, given the offensive line and how much of a dumpster fire it was. They still just kind of lack pushing the ball down the field, and they have all these very good weapons that are able to push the ball down the field. I mean, Nussmeier was 18 of 21 in this game. If you told me it was 18 of 21 last year, I would have told you, oh, he threw for 300 plus
360 yards.
300, yeah, 340 yards. He threw for 121 yards. It was 5.8. What the heck, man? They're just got this putt offense left, right, and center. You've got guys like Nick Anderson, Chris Hilton, Barry and Brown. They
started
deep
using Nick
threats.
Anderson early in this one, then he got hurt.
He's out for the season. He blew a knee out. So
yeah.
But like all of those guys, think about the track athletes on this roster: Xavier Thomas, Barry and Brown, Nick Anderson, Aaron Anderson, Chris Hilton, Caden Durham. They are all speed weapons, and everything is within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. That's insane. That's like a criminal to use those guys that way. It's like using Zachariah Branch as a screen merchant, which Georgia has been doing, but he finally scored on a 40-plus yarder. Shout out Georgia. Mike Bobo, you moron. I will tell you, I'm going to relish in saying this. I think Lotzier Brooks might be better than Ryan Williams long term. Ryan Williams is good. I just don't think Ryan Williams is great. I think I was dying on a hill when I said that I thought Jeremy Bernard was the better of the two wide receivers in this system. And it's proven true. Ryan Williams cannot catch a football right now. And he did catch a touchdown, but something's broken on Ryan Williams because he got too much hype a year ago for what he was. And
he's on the cover of the college football game.
Cam Coleman is tenfold better than Ryan Williams. Ryan Williams is just another wide receiver in college football. He's a jag. He's not as good as Dallas Wilson. By the way, I called Kentucky finishing off Florida. Florida got destroyed. And they're terrible now because they all quit. They're transferring. The shopping list is out there. It was the entire injury report from last week. They benched Lagway at the middle of the third quarter. I was like, oh, who is this cat who's in right now? So Jaden Ball was the only one who played like he had any skin in the game. And boy, that's interesting.
I think Jaden Ball every time I watch Jaden Ball play, I think he's one of the best players in college football.
He's the best running back in college football, in my opinion. It's not
Jaden Ball is the guy that I think won't get talked about. Well, I mean, he'll end up transferring, I would hope. But I think it's one of the guys that like no one talks about. And then someone looks up and is like, who is this all pro? Where was he? Well, how did this guy not get talked about more in college? It's like, I was over here screaming about it. I think he's just a stud.
He's the guy that transfers in the offseason and nobody talks about it. Like, remember how much, like, even Mekhi Hughes kind of got a little hype because he went to Oregon.
A lot.
Yeah, but like, all right, so like CJ Donaldson goes to Ohio State. Nobody was like, hey, CJ Donaldson, Ohio State, that's insane. I don't even remember people really getting too up in arms about the Judkins to Ohio State thing.
I was going to say Judkins was the one that reminded me of, yeah.
Yeah, nobody really was like, oh, holy crap, I can't believe they got Quinshon Judkins. That's insane. Justice Haynes going to Michigan. Like this feels like that. Like you could supplant him. You know where he'd be perfect. Oh my goodness, I just figured it out. Indiana. You plug him into that Indiana system as a sole workhorse back. Oh my, imagine the things that Mike Shanahan and Kurt Cignetti can do with Jaden Ball. That would be nutty. That would be impressive.
Oh man. I don't want to spend too much more time on this past week because I think there's a lot of
it's a lot of good stuff this next week.
Yeah, intrigue. And I think it starts. I don't want to skip any of these early week games. Let me just check.
Whoa. Do not skip the MAC game of the year.
Ohio and Western Michigan on Tuesday night.
Toledo, Miami of Ohio, sir. We get revenge game city. We get Miami of Ohio. Remember, they brought Daquan Finn in, and Daquan Finn won a MAC championship and MAC Offensive Player of the Year at Toledo. So we get revenge game, and that's going to be awesome because you get Chip Trainum, just some sick players out there on the field for this one. I think Miami of Ohio probably will lose, but
Toledo's 3.5-point favorites.
Yeah, it's a small favorite. It's a small favorite.
On the
What
road.
you
Yeah.
normally do though is you normally want to bet against Toledo when they're a 3-score favorite. Jason Candle sucks in those situations. This is the type of situation where you get Tucker Gleason, who replaced Daquan Finn when he transferred. Like this is a fabulous, fun game to watch. It's must view TV.
I have nothing to add. I got nothing for you there. I
I
have
understand.
nothing.
That's
Totally
my
nothing.
game. I'll get to watch it too. I'll be watching it from a hotel room in Chicago.
Oh, that's right. You're on the road this week.
I am on the road.
Friday we've got Clemson is at Louisville. Louisville only a 3.5 point favorite here in this one. Any interest in the Clemson Tigers, who are fresh off a victory over Florida State?
Yeah, I would take Clemson money line. Louisville just they're not going to have Isaac Brown. They don't know how
Pretty
to
big
use
one.
Chris Bell anymore. Keywan Brown's nasty, but they don't give him enough touches. They were insistent on using Duke Watson, which drove me insane. Louisville not going to be able to run the ball on Clemson. Now, I would expect from a DFS perspective, we're going to want to play Chris Bell and we're going to want to play Clemson doubles on the way back. Clemson doubles absolutely buried me last weekend. Tristan Smith's playing really well, though. TJ Moore, meh. It's kind of Antonio Williams. And then Gideon Davidson starting to get work in that Clemson backfield. I keep having arguments with the same person in my chat that not this chat, but a different online chat room in Discord. I keep having the same argument. He kept saying that Gideon Davidson's not on the field because he doesn't know how to pass block. I said, hey, dumbass, let's get him on the field when it's a rundown situation and just hand the ball off if he's a better player than Adam Randall. That seems to make sense. How about that? Let's not punish the kid because he's a freshman who doesn't know how to pass block. Maybe don't put him out there in pass down situations. I'm very passionate about that topic. It's really bothered me.
I could tell.
Golly. Like, if he's your best running back, hand him the freaking ball when he's in the game. It's not like Bill Belichick didn't do it with Shane Vereen, Danny Woodhead, and LeGarrette Blunt over here. LeGarrette Blunt wasn't in there on pass downs. Everybody knew he was going to run the ball. You know what he did? He ran for 18 touchdowns.
The other Friday night game that I've got staring me in the face here is this Minnesota at Oregon. Minnesota's a 24.5 point underdog on a game with a 46 point over under.
Yeah, I really do like Minnesota in this spot.
It's a 45-degree weather game, according to this as well.
Yeah. Oh, that was funny. So, look, I'm a big Booger McFarland fan. As far as like, I've met him. He's a super nice guy. Shared a sausage biscuit in a golf cart with him one time. Great guy. But that man doesn't understand a lot of things. He said that Oregon is not used to playing when they were at Iowa in rainy games in cold weather. It rains every day in Oregon. It's cold every day in Oregon. I've been there. It's cold and rainy in August. So, no, Booger. Bad choice of words. I think Minnesota does set up well if Darius Taylor can prove that he's healthy. I like their quarterback, Drake Lindsay, the freshman. I thought that was very risky for them to come into the season playing him. They have had some bumps in the road, but they do have some good weapons on the outside. If Oregon's truly missing all these guys again on the from the pass game side, I like Minnesota to cover that 23.5. It looks like it's going further though. It's 23.5, but it's minus 115 on the Oregon side. So maybe we get a better number. Maybe it clears 24 and I'll be interested then.
I'm looking at 24. That's on ESPN Bet is what I've got, which I think is dead now or isn't dead or I don't know.
Yeah, it sounded like they have a deal with DK now, so
Yeah,
I don't know.
no one out there is actually betting on it, so
Yeah,
and maybe it's just as real of a number as like betting on like I don't know who's gonna like be the next president or spaghetti eating contest thing or something. You said earlier you think Oregon is definitely running the table. You think you got them getting past Minnesota, USC, and Washington easily? I mean,
I
not just
feel
doing
good.
it, but I mean it's
feel good
possible.
about the. I feel good about the Washington game. The one that scares me the most is USC. But I would say that's
Surprisingly good.
probably it. I think USC is a good team. That's where I'm at with them.
Yeah.
King Miller looks really good. If Wayman Jordan can get back, I would love it if USC was in the playoff. Maybe they sneak in as the 4th team in the Big Ten. Maybe. But they're going to have to win all their games down the line. If they win one, if they beat Oregon, they're probably in.
Yeah. Moving on to Saturday, Wisconsin, fresh off the vote of confidence for Luke Fickell, gets a win over Washington. They now head to Indiana. Indiana is minus 30.5 here. I think Indiana just going to boat race them. If you got someone who thinks Wisconsin showed some kind of turnaround last week and is not, I don't know, coherent, just falling for it. I don't know. Wisconsin sucks. So
Did you see what the pass numbers were in that game for Wisconsin? Who their leading passer was?
you know what? Hold on. I'll open it right now and I'll find out right as I open it. Let's see.
I want to see
Wait
your
for my
reaction
computer
to
to
see what
load.
their pass
Well, the way you
numbers.
said it made me think the kicker.
It's the punter. It was the punter.
Okay.
The punter led them in passing with 24 yards.
They ESPN has them listed with PK next to it. So I took that as place kicker, but wow.
Yeah, their punter led them in passing. So yes, Wisconsin's turned a corner. Their punter led them in passing. Maybe it was the place kicker, but I don't know. It's somebody who was a kicker. That's all I know.
The corner was not the corner they should have turned. South Carolina is heading to Texas A&M. A&M 17.5-point favorite. I'm again here thinking this is an A&M throttle somebody because I think this team also sucks.
Yeah, I think so. I think South Carolina's dead right now. They have no run game, no pass game. It's all Sellers, and Sellers can't carry them far enough.
The college game day game is this Northwestern at Pitt. Or I'm sorry, Notre Dame at Pitt. Northwestern. I was looking at the next game
Northwestern.
here.
Whoa.
Yeah, Northwestern. Notre Dame at Pitt. Notre Dame 10.5-point road favorites here. Pitt, as we've talked about the last couple of weeks, has the plucky underdog darling schedule here. They've won 5 in a row, beating Boston College, Florida State, Syracuse, NC State, and Stanford on the road. They now have Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, and Miami left on the schedule. Obviously ranked 23, 24, I guess, going into this past week's rankings. But I mean, I'm not sure there's a world they rattle off 3 straight, but I think they're here playing spoiler with 1, maybe 2 of the 3 teams ahead of them. So Notre Dame 10.5-point road favorites in the spot.
I've already bet Pitt plus 300. They're a live dog for my money. They are undefeated under their current quarterback, Mason Heinschel. So they're undefeated under the freshman kid. As long as Desmond Reed plays, they are live. That's all I'll say. I like they can play defense. They got a good, they're always live on defense. We know Narduzzi can do this type of stuff. I've bet it just because the number's so big, and I don't mind taking shots on that. I only need to hit 1 out of 3 times on this. So
yeah,
I think they're live to hit 1 out of 3 in this spot. If Notre Dame loses, it really throws a wrench in playoffs. That's for dang sure, because that's 3 losses.
Yeah, I think that's going to open that. That would be opening the door for a whole lot of other teams that are sitting there counting Notre Dame as in at this point. Yeah. I think there's a Utah sitting around really rooting for it, and it pretty much would have to happen in this spot if they're gonna be that if they're gonna be there or not be there. It's pretty much going to be decided in this game on Saturday.
Yep. You said you got Northwestern?
Yeah, so Michigan's heading to Northwestern, and that game actually taking place at Wrigley Field. Northwestern, a 10.5-point home underdog against Michigan in this spot in the friendly confines.
So what you're telling me is if this FAA stuff continues, my flight gets canceled, I can go to Michigan Northwestern on Saturday.
You can.
Let's go.
You'd have a reason to check in the Wrigley Field. You got a football game at Wrigley Field.
I'm going to be there on Friday at Wrigley, but I don't know. I have the whole day. If my flight does get canceled and I get stranded in Chicago, I guess I'm going to the Northwestern Michigan game and I'm coming home later.
Just push your flight back.
Wow. Yeah, company dime, brother, not mine.
It's a weekend.
Company card.
Any interest here? Because I think with Northwestern and what Michigan's offense has looked like, this may have a baseball score to it, given Bryce Underwood's ability to move the football.
It's viable. Once again, I'd like to shout out Miss Hayes for breaking the news that I think Justice Haynes is probably going to be out in this one. Coma Fele actually looks really good against USC. I was impressed by him. And we know where the football is going when Preston Stone drops back to pass with Griffin. I think they called him Wildy. I've been calling him Wild all year, but they
I
called
would
him
have gone with
Wildy.
Wild.
They called him Wildy on the game the other day on
I'm looking
Friday
at the
night.
picture of him. I could see Wildy.
Yeah, I get it. But so I'm interested in that one. I do think it's a spot where we're going to need to see some stuff from Underwood, or else he's really starting to get, especially when we get into next season, he could be getting into Lagway territory pretty quick here.
Another fun, interesting game in this window. Arizona's at Cincinnati. Not a game that's going to really matter at this point for Arizona in the Big 12 chase, but Cincinnati still remains in it, 5-1 in the conference. Fafita and them boys are fun and a fun team. They saw the fun game they put together with Kansas this past weekend, pulling that one out at the end. Any interest in Arizona traveling to Cincinnati? Arizona 6.5-point underdogs.
So I had this one on my list. I didn't bet it because the odds weren't long enough for me, number one. Number two, you get a bunch of guys from Arizona going to a very cold weather spot, and it's going to be cold up north this week. I'm concerned about that at the most. So I prefer Cincinnati in this one, coming off of that just awful loss at Utah. I think I like Cincinnati in this spot to win, just because of the weather concerns me there.
We talked a little bit about South Florida heading to Navy earlier in the show. Obviously, South Florida heading to Annapolis, colder weather game there. The temp here, again, it's AccuWeather, so I don't trust it very much, but it says 45. USF's 10.5-point road favorites there. Honestly, I think I'm not that, the narrative is they're from Florida, so they're softer, but this team is one of those hard-nosed, kind of tough teams. They like to itch in the mouth. I don't think they're going to be terribly scared. Though cold plus triple option or whatever Navy's got going isn't exactly fun.
They're going to need Horvath healthy, though. If Horvath's not out there, then I would say that they're live. I mean, they're live to get boat raced either way, but they're more capable of hanging in there if we get Blake Horvath back on the field.
Oklahoma, number 12 currently in the country, heads to Alabama with their playoff hopes kind of here dangling in the balance. Alabama, fresh off the win over LSU. Oklahoma needs this one, and I think that should be evident in how they play. Mateer getting another week here to rest off the Tennessee win 2 weeks ago at Tennessee. They now have the bye to then go ahead and go Alabama, Missouri, LSU. Oklahoma certainly can close the season here 3-0. They got to find the health with Mateer if that offense is going to start clicking again. I don't think they're. This is a spot that I hate. I certainly think Oklahoma can go in there and win because LSU is incapable of lining up and not false starting or not blocking the guys across from them, and had a puncher's chance there through the end of the final whistle there.
I've bet Oklahoma. I like them as a live dog in this spot. They match up particularly well with Alabama from the standpoint that Alabama's not going to be able to run the football. They're going to have to throw it on Oklahoma. They probably will be able to move the football through the air. It's just going to be a matter of how well can they move it. They've had Oklahoma had the bye week to get ready for this one. So Venables has an extra week to prep for Ty Simpson. He was probably watching and seeing how LSU was able to handle Ty Simpson in this spot. The question is Oklahoma's how are they going to run the football? They've actually looked a lot better doing so lately. And then Satania is just an absolute weapon. They will stretch the field on Alabama. So I do really like Oklahoma in this spot. Another team that I'm willing to take shots on there.
I spin the ACC wheel of death for you in the 3:30 window. I've got Virginia at Duke. At Duke, a 6.5-point favorite, despite being 5-4. We talked about Virginia's shortcomings there. Georgia Tech heads to Boston College, 16.5-point road favorites there. And NC State heads down to Miami Gardens to face Miami there at Hard Rock Stadium. Miami, a 14.5-point home favorite. Uh, who should be the most concerned out of
NC
the
State.
three
NC
favorites?
State's the most live dog in that one for me. I
Yeah.
would say NC State's the most live dog. Virginia, if Chandler Morris is out, which is likely, they're dead facing Duke because the only thing that UVA has been able to do for the past month is run the football. So taking on a Duke team that actually can stop the run, their biggest weakness is the pass, which is how John Fagnano, which I learned how to say last week. I was calling him Fagnano. Fagnano over there with Skylar Bell just absolutely torched Duke on the back end. Duke is terrible on pass defense. UVA, not a very good pass offense. And then Daniel Kalen, I believe his name was, who was the backup who came in for Chandler Morris when he got banged up last week. He arguably looked just as good as Chandler Morris did because Chandler Morris hasn't played well since Florida State game. So I expect Duke to be able to handle business in that one. NC State is probably the most live because they're the most capable of scoring. I still don't trust Mario. Like from the coaching standpoint, Dave Doran is a far better coach than Mario Cristobal, in my opinion. The coordinators are a different story. NC State's defense absolutely terrible. If Mark Fletcher's still out, CJ Daniels still out, if that happens and they can draw up pressure on Carson Beck, they're in deep, deep trouble because Miami really didn't move the ball extremely well. Miami has a decided advantage on both sides of the line of scrimmage in this thing, but NC State's moved the football well on offense. It's just defense hadn't stopped anybody.
Yeah, I like NC State here as well. Miami at this point is November's been their curse. It's been when teams they don't really change what they do. They just keep doing what they do, and obviously by November that's been figured out and solved, and they just seem to be like, well, we're just going to do it better. So if that's the recipe, I wouldn't be surprised if Dorn actually is able to pull this one out, even as a two touchdown underdog on the road. It's not exactly like Hard Rock Stadium is a tough place to play there. Iowa, USC. We talked a little bit about both teams here. Obviously, Iowa with the loss is likely, maybe they'll hang on the top 25. We'll see what the committee decides to do there. But currently, it's a ranked game because both teams were ranked as of last Tuesday. Iowa is a 6.5-point dog here heading to USC. And I think to me, we've talked a lot about what is USC and can we trust them? Can we get there with them? And they this is the spot I feel like if they're going to beat Oregon, they need to look the part. Iowa's a good test for them in that scenario. I think Iowa's a chance to play the Iowa game. We talked about it last week. They did it to Oregon, and now it's a chance for USC to have their turn. Obviously, it's at home. That helps a lot. But I'm very interested to see what type of USC game we get here, and if they can match Iowa in the way this team has played lately, I'd certainly be willing to say that's a playoff team and start looking at jumping them over Miami and putting them closer and closer. Obviously, they'd still have to beat Oregon to actually get there.
I'm pretty comfortable with USC in this spot because it's at home and Lincoln Riley in Cali is pretty much undefeated, and Iowa won't have the capability to match up with a Mekhi Lemon and a Jacoby Lane. Jacoby Lane made a sick catch the other night. It was just ridiculous. He climbed the ladder, the defender tipped it, and then he caught it with his offhand that he didn't reach up for it with. It was ridiculous. So they have just too many weapons for Iowa to deal with, especially in that Cali weather.
The later game, we got Florida heading to Ole Miss. Ole Miss only a 15.5-point favorite here. I think that number is surprisingly smaller than I anticipated. I guess maybe Jaden Baugh is playing linebacker too. I don't know.
Yeah, that one's not even on my radar. I think Florida's given up and Lane's just gonna Lane, and that's a team that Lane lost to last year. I think maybe if anything, he has a sick enough mind that he wants to blow them out just to show them, hey, you wish you had me as your coach.
Well, maybe they do. Utah at Baylor. Utah, the team we talked about a good bit earlier, who is going to be flirting around that edge. Can't really afford to slip up here. They're 8.5-point road favorites here, but always tricky with sub 10 road favorites.
Yeah, and Baylor has enough offense to keep it close. I do worry because their run game is kind of disappeared with Bryson Washington being banged up. and their defense is just absolutely atrocious. So I don't think Utah is going to be stopped in this one.
Yeah.
I lean Utah to win this one pretty comfortably.
UCLA and I guess, surging Nico Iamaleava head to Ohio State. Ohio State's a 32-point favorite here at home. No surprise, we're in Ohio State here.
Yeah, I would say Ohio State. I would say probably the best bet there is UCLA team total under whatever it is.
Yeah, 0.
Sure. Yeah.
Texas and Georgia, the headliner of the weekend here. Texas heading to Athens, a 6.5-point road underdog. I was on Mississippi State last week against Georgia, and Georgia just put it on them. I thought Georgia's defense was poor and could be moved. The ball can be moved against them pretty much by anybody. Mississippi State proved that to be false for when the game was actually, I guess, available, a competitive, quote unquote, competitive, before Georgia really called off the dogs. I like Georgia here.
I hate that commercial now. I've seen it way too much at this point. I like Texas to cover. I think Arch has played better. Georgia's defense has been pretty bad. I think Texas coming off a bye. Georgia basically had a bye. Nate Frazier actually showed signs of life finally. I do like Texas. I don't know why. I just have this gut feeling that this is the type of game where Texas shows up and maybe we get an Arch legacy game here out of nowhere. I'm willing to take the shot.
Yeah, well, speaking of willing to take the shot, I'm looking at Mississippi State here. They're 5-5, 2 games left. Obviously, this week they head to Missouri as 6.5-point underdogs. The only other game they have left is the Egg Bowl. I like Mississippi State to get one of these 2 wins, so I'm going to shoot it at both. So I'm going to go ahead and start my shooting the both to get bowl eligible here with Mississippi State at Mizzou.
I think that's fair. I don't know that the cause for concern there is, number one, Mizzou's defense very good.
Yeah.
And number 2, the biggest weakness for Mississippi State is stopping the run. And the one thing that Missouri does well now is run the football with Ahmad Hardy and Jamal Roberts. That's the scary part.
TCU is pretty late here on the schedule. TCU heads to BYU with a 10:15 kickoff there. BYU 5.5-point home favorites. Obviously, the loss this week, Texas Tech will drop them likely to the bubble here. Can't afford to slip up if they're going to try and stay in contention. But that TCU team, as I've said before, just continues to baffle me. I really don't know what I'm going to get whenever they show up and line up to play ball this past week, losing to Iowa State. I really just don't know what to expect from TCU any given day.
Yeah, you don't know, but I would take BYU to just out physical them. That is a matchup that Bear Bachmeier can eat in. And I think that they bounce back very well in this spot against TCU.
I'm not sure this really has any bearing anymore given the last weekend's game, but Boise State at San Diego State, the last thing on the schedule that actually interests me here going into the nightcap. Just in terms of a game that could be interesting. San Diego State, obviously, like I said, just got boat raced by Hawaii. They're 2.5-point favorites at home against Boise in a game with a 40 over under.
I do like that game from a viewership standpoint.
Viewing at 10:30 at night, I got nothing else to flip on the TV. I'll flip between this and the last game I mentioned.
And I like Boise in that spot, but like I talked about, I don't think Boise's particularly good, and I think San Diego State can win that game. I did expect them to lose one of those Final 4. They managed to just get it out of the way early in that one. I don't mind taking shots on Boise. I already took a bet on them just in case, and if Madison's healthy, I feel pretty good about that Boise team. So now I get the open floor to run on some games. I got like 6 I can run through.
Am I allowed to? I wasn't sure which ones out because there's a couple on here that I'm looking at. And I'm like, should I even bring this up? Because I feel like this could be his underrated game of the week.
I'm not worried about it because I'm traveling and I don't even know if I can like do whatever.
Like this Kennesaw State Jacksonville State game here at 8:00.
Nah, I'm not loving that one.
2-5.
It's not my favorite game. I think Jack State's a fraud. I think Kennesaw's meh. Like they're okay. They're not great in my opinion. Quick turnaround for them though in that spot. I do like another CUSA game a little bit better. Liberty at FIU. I like FIU money line in that spot. Keon Jenkins, one of my favorite Conference USA quarterbacks. I do not trust that Liberty team to be able to score. Ethan Basco, notably awful. And I also have an over on the team total for FIU, and I need them to win 2 out of their final 3. So I'm going to keep parlaying that in this spot and take FIU to win outright there. Particularly need that. So a home dog, I'm interested. You didn't bring up Arkansas LSU. And I'm kind of surprised by it.
Yeah, so here's the thing that happened. First of all, because LSU is one of my favorite teams, quote unquote, it always ends up at the top of the list. So I normally just skip them and keep it moving. Also, the team just doesn't deserve a second of my time. It really doesn't.
Yeah, but didn't you want to just lay the 172 with Arkansas? Like take the plus money and run? Because I think they can score. Like Arkansas's defense sucks, but can LSU capitalize on now? If we get word that Van Buren's starting, I'm in on LSU in this spot.
Yeah, I don't know how you go back to Nussmeier at this point.
How did they let that Raising Cane's commercial get made where they say your dad doesn't trust your decision making? I still don't understand how they managed to let that get through.
I got to be honest, I've never seen it.
My dad hadn't either, and he laughed so hard when I told him. So what it is he's in the car at the Raising Cane's drive-thru with Archie Manning, and then Todd Graves is in the back seat with Nussmeier. They pull up, and Cooper Manning is the drive-thru attendant. He's trying to take Archie's order, and they're like talking or whatever. And then Nussmeier shoves his head through and goes, "Can I please get a Caniac box? Or can I please place my order?" And Cooper Manning, in the best way possible, goes, "Oh, I've already got your order. Your dad placed it. He doesn't trust your decision making." How did that get through? Because the one knock on Nussmeier coming into the season was his decision making, and they filmed this during the off season.
Yeah, him taking the sack against the 3-man rush, or like a 20-yard sack against a 3-man rush, was one of the most disgusting things I've seen from a college quarterback in a long time.
Yeah. So anyway, other games on my radar this week. I think North Carolina's live to beat Wake Forest. They played inspired football the last 2 weeks, played well against Syracuse when they didn't have a passing attack, played well against Stanford, actually beat them.
If we're talking about teams that don't have a passing attack, I mean, Wake Forest.
Wake Forest does not have any passing attack. We have Robbie Ashford. Robbie Ashford's always live for North Carolina to be able to give one up. I think coming off of that game last week, Bill Belichick, Jake Dickert. I like the job that Dickert's done with Wake Forest so far this season, but Damon Claiborne isn't really doing much. I think North Carolina's live, and they're better than plus 184. That should be a 3.5 point spread, not a 5.5 for me. Texas State heading to Southern Miss. I don't think Southern Miss is particularly great. A couple of these games that I'm keying in on are high over-unders. I think that gives us more variance. Texas State, Brad Jackson, Lincoln Parr, they can score. Southern Miss has looked fallible lately. So I would say at plus 195, I do have some interest in Texas State there. Memphis heading to East Carolina, the aforementioned East Carolina, as a 115 dog. I bet this because I don't think Memphis should be a dog to East Carolina. I don't care who's starting at quarterback. East Carolina does have a decent defense, but Brendan Lewis played fine last week. He took way too many sacks. It was because he's immobile right now. East Carolina, I never trust the team with Caton Hauser. He's right up there with Cam Fancher as worst quarterbacks in the country for me. I'm not a Hauser fan. Memphis, I don't see how they lose on the road, even in East Carolina. I was surprised this was not the game that you were going to bring up. And this, if I was doing an underrated game of the week, this is probably it. Because there's going to be zero defense played in this one.
Is it Utah State, UNLV?
Utah State heads to UNLV. And I'm going to talk about it for a second because it will be or would be the underrated game of the week if I have time to do it. Utah State plays zero defense, but they can score on anybody. They're plus 162 in a 71.5 over-under game. UNLV can't stop anybody, And Calandria is the whoopsie daisy king for a reason. He turned it over last week against Colorado State, kind of kept them in that game. So I would expect that Utah State is extremely live in this one on a fast track at UNLV to win at plus 162. I really like that bet. Now, the longest of long shots of the week, and I have bet this game at plus 760. I got a plus 760 dog that I laid. I don't suggest anybody else does, but I laid it for the sole reason that I am hedging on my happiness. App State has absolutely annoyed the crap out of me for the past 4 years and put a thorn in my side in an undefeated season and college game day appearance. Last season in a team that should have won multiple games more and would have been a college football playoff contender. And then the year before that, and the year before that. And I'm extremely tired of it. So at plus 760, give me App State at James Madison. And if they win, at least I got 7.5 to 1 on my happiness. So I hedged my happiness. If we win, great. If we lose, I got 7.5 to 1. At least I made some money on it.
That's all it is. Just find ways to make money.
I'm just hedging my happiness. Yes, because if we lose to freaking App State again as a 19.5-point favorite, I'm going to be so angry.
You'll probably be. Are you flying then?
I am flying on Friday.
Oh, okay, so no.
Yeah, I fly back Friday. So I should be home. Hopefully. As long as the FAA deems it that I am allowed to fly home.
All right.
And that's not because of me.
It seems that the government may be reopening here.
Oh, well, I'll take that. So that would
there may be a deal. So you may be able to fly after all.
All right, good. I don't need 10. I don't need to be one of the 10%.
Yeah, that's right. We're flying in a couple of weeks, and my wife was freaking out about it. I'm like, I think in a couple of weeks it should be okay. I'm like, worst case scenario, we'll just drive. It's fine. We've got time. Don't stress about it now.
Yeah, it's not worth the aggravation.
It'll be fine. Yeah. But I think that's it, man. I think we got a really loaded week 12 here. I'm hoping it delivers better than week 11 did. But I mean, week 11 was basically the Penn State game, and everybody else just kind of played ball.
Yeah, that's where I would be with that. So rest of this week, I should have nothing tomorrow. We'll have night streams on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, probably a Friday morning before I check out of the hotel, depending on the Wi-Fi in the hotel. Hopefully the Hilton's got good enough Wi-Fi. I'm going to have the mic and everything with me. It's going through TSA. I'd imagine they won't flag me on a microphone. Should be able to travel with it in the old suitcase. And so we'll have some nighttime viewing. Maybe we'll have some extra people in there rather than the 9 a.m. Central usuals. So maybe we'll have some 7, 8 p.m.s during the week this week.
Nice.
So yeah,
flip some night shows for you.
Yeah, a little different when I'm not working at night. Instead, I'm working during the day. Well, I'm not necessarily working, but whatever. So yeah. So I'll let y'all know how Portillo's is because I'm going to try it. And I want to see how it is. I'm going to get me an Italian beef sandwich and a chocolate cake shake.